Oh man, what's up, guys? It's been a hard day for your boy. Let me tell you that. Just came back from the gym. I'm beat. I'm destroyed. But it's WrestleMania season, so I figured I'd drop a video right about now, and we're gonna soon, relatively soon, have a schedule down. And I'm gonna stick to it. So it's gonna be probably about a minimum of 3 videos a week, I'd say. So probably 25 Reason Tuesdays, Impact review. Impact, whatever. Dynamite review. You know what I mean? So, we'll see how it goes. But for today, we're going to talk about WrestleMania a little bit. Motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying? Let's be real, I feel like I'm talking to myself because I said the exact same things last year. Last year, I really thought that last year's WrestleMania would undoubtedly be the worst WrestleMania of all time. There's a few things. There's a few things about it. Number one, it was still like a COVID WrestleMania. You can say what you want, but we were still in the middle of COVID. And there was a lot of matches that, just didn't feel like WrestleMania matches. Even things like Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks, which was one of the main events, did not feel like a main event match. And then we had things like Orton and The Fiend, you know what I mean? I remember that one. That one was trash, right? So the question is, how could it get worse than that? Because last year we at least had, there were some good matches, The Edge, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns match was pretty good. The Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon was pretty good. But there was also a lot of, Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. Who cares? You know what I mean? Complete waste of time. Nothing came of that. It shouldn't have been a WrestleMania match. You know the drill. But this year's WrestleMania, as of now at least, because who knows? Sometimes WrestleMania is they look horrible, and then they turn out to be really good. Like the one where it was Edge versus Undertaker in the main event. The card looked horrible. I'm Edge versus Undertaker. Because back then, you know what I mean? Edge back then wasn't the Edge that we know today. He was his push was kind of starting, right? So, he was in the middle of the push, but he didn't feel like a main eventer really. So it was a little bit weird, And there was always that idea that he could beat the streak, but still, it was you kind of knew what was going to happen. But the match turned out great. The card turned out great. There's a lot of good WrestleManias that are saved by a match or two. So this could be one of them. I'm not going to sit here and say that there's no chance of that happening. But the facts are what the facts are. The matches just don't cut the mustard. So let's just get to it. First of all, there's 5 matches on night 1 and 6 matches on night 2 as of now. They're going to add something here and there. Definitely some pre-show matches, but let's look at the card, right? First of all, we have Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's title. This is the exact same situation as last year, except instead of Sasha Banks, it's Becky Lynch. Nothing changes here. This is completely meaningless. Basically, Bianca Belair was champion for half the year, and then Becky Lynch beat her, for the title, because she came back. And now we're just going to have the rematch of that. Becky Lynch beat her in 3 seconds. So, I understand that there's been a flipping of the titles, but basically, the lineage is as follows. Bianca Belair was champion after she beat Sasha Banks. Then Becky Lynch became champion. They traded titles. And now Bianca Belair is going to challenge Becky Lynch. This match does not feel like a main event match. Except for the fact that it's Becky Lynch and it's WrestleMania. So it's you have that going for it. But it's not really good, right? Then we have the first of the attraction matches. We have Logan Paul and The Miz versus Rey and Dominic. Now, I'm actually looking forward to this. You know what I'm saying? I like The Miz. Logan Paul, I don't give a shit about. Rey and Dominic, they're cool, I'm happy that Rey and Dominic are getting a WrestleMania match. I think last time they were in the pre-show or some bullshit, or they were on the SmackDown before WrestleMania, they won the titles, and it's that could have actually been a moment. That's a much more important moment than Cesaro versus Rollins. But it is what it is. So I'm actually looking forward to that one. That one actually feels like a WrestleMania match. Just like the Bad Bunny match last year felt like a WrestleMania match, this feels like a WrestleMania match. Primarily because there's at least one celebrity, and 2 because The Miz is involved. And The Miz always has an important match at WrestleMania when he's at WrestleMania. Then we have Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin. This may as well be Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. You know what I mean? They might as well just make it Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. Nobody cares about this at all. This is not even a match that I want to see on Raw, or SmackDown, or Sunday Night Heat, or Velocity, or Superstars. I don't want to see it at all. This is not a WrestleMania level match. Especially considering Drew McIntyre and how relevant he has been for the last, I guess you could say year and a half. Maybe even 2 years. Because he hasn't been relevant for a while now. That's one of the things. But he was in 2 consecutive WWE Championship matches at WrestleManias. And now he's back to where he should be. Let's be honest. He's back to where he should be. Wrestling Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin. Like, here's why this match is completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter who wins. If Madcap Moss beats Drew McIntyre, what's going to come of that? In addition, this match has no actual storyline. What I mean by that is, if you look at like one of my favorite mid-card matches of all time, one of my favorite matches of all time, Jericho versus Christian at WrestleMania, where Trish Stratus betrays Jericho and goes with Christian. That match had a twist, right? It had a storyline, and it had a twist, and it made for a WrestleMania moment. Because you're like, oh my god, I didn't expect that to happen. WrestleMania, for those of you that don't know, used to be all about the twists and turns. You know? People turning face, and I don't mean like Carlito turned heel. I don't mean that. I mean like Triple H and Chyna like reuniting during WrestleMania after Triple H beats Kane, right? And then Triple H and Chyna then defecting. After Chyna turns face for like an hour, they betray X-Pac and defect to the corporation, right? Leaving Kane screwed. There was a double turn there. Kane turned face, Triple H, and then Chyna kind of turned heel, right? And this set up like the tag team of Kane and X-Pac, one of the most underrated tag teams of all time, in my opinion, right? So, like, these things have to happen. We, of course, have Stone Cold turning heel and betraying, like, beating The Rock and joining with Vince McMahon. That's a huge moment. We have Vince versus Shane. That's a huge moment with Linda McMahon getting up. Like, that wasn't really that big of a twist, but a twist nonetheless. And Mick Foley as special guest referee. We have so many great WrestleMania moments. And a lot of matches that you don't think are going to have WrestleMania moments end up having it. Like, I always bring this up. Goldust versus Val Venus. Great match, right? Great match, in my opinion, and a good little conclusion to their storyline. But what's going to come of Drew McIntyre and Happy Corbin? Nothing. At best, Madcap Moss is going to turn face. Who gives a flying fuck about Madcap Moss? You know? Like Riddick Moss was okay. Madcap Moss is dumb. It just doesn't make any sense. Then we have the Usos versus Nakamura and Rick Boogs for the tag team titles. This basically is a let's throw it together match because the Usos deserve, quote unquote, a WrestleMania spot, and they do because they've been like with Roman Reigns for like a year now, and it's led to something. You know what I mean? Like they feel like a bigger deal than they used to. And then you have Nakamura and Rick Boogs. Rick Boogs is irrelevant, but Nakamura is there because it's like, all right, we got this guy from Japan, we might as well use him. A few Japanese people might tune in, you know? So it's like the Nakamura match. Like, it's the where are we going to fit Nakamura and where are we going to fit the Usos? I know. Let's put them together in a meaningless match. Then we have Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey. I mean, I don't care about this at all. You know, I don't care about this at all. This is a rehash of WrestleMania, like, several weeks ago. The only thing of note here is that the first night has two women's matches. And obviously one of them is going to main event. Because thus far, the first night, if you have no interest in women's wrestling, if you don't care about Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey, like, three of these four women are basically, are basically, you know, stars, if you will, right? But Bianca Belair is not a star. I mean, she just isn't. Let's be real, motherfuckers. She's not a star. Bianca Belair is not a motherfucker. She's just a jobber. So these three women are stars. So if one of these matches is going to definitely main event, at least as the card stands now. But if you don't care about these two matches, in other words, if you don't care about women's wrestling, then what you're watching on WrestleMania, motherfuckers, not WrestleMania Backlash. WrestleMania Night 1 is Rey and Dominic versus Miz and Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin with Madcap Moss, and the Usos versus Nakamura and Boogs. This feels like an episode of SmackDown. This is not a WrestleMania card. You know? But the good thing is that on the first night, we're going to get rid of both women's matches. So who gives a rat's ass? Second night is automatically going to be better. And the second night, the first match, is a fatal four-way tag team match for the women's tag team titles. It's going to be Queen Zelina and Carmella versus Banks and Naomi, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, and Natalya versus Shayna Baszler. I mean, first of all, Natalya and Shayna Baszler, that's not a team that makes any sense to your boy. Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, that's not a team that makes sense to your boy. Queen Zelina and Carmella, even though they're tag team champions, that's not a team that makes sense to your boy. Sasha Banks and Naomi does not make sense to your boy. Like, why? So Sasha Banks can betray her? You know what I mean? We know what's going to happen. Sasha Banks is going to betray her and take off her wig, revealing another colored wig. This is a waste of everyone's time. Nobody cares about this match. Nobody wants to see this match. Nobody cares about the women's tag team titles. Nobody cares about any of these 8 women at all. If they all got released tomorrow, the company would be better off. Next up, we have Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. This is only interesting in the event that, like, Wee Man and, you know, like, perhaps Steve-O or, Preston or whoever, some of the Jackass guys come and do Jackass things. That's the only draw of this match. I don't care about Sami Zayn or Johnny Knoxville as wrestlers. I only care just to see if some cool things are going to happen. Maybe some, super stun, because it's a big deal, right? Then we have Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory, which, ironically, I'm looking forward to, only because Pat McAfee versus, Adam Cole was one of the best matches I've seen in the last few years. No joke, right? Pat McAfee has, one of the best debuts of all time, in my opinion. So him versus Austin Theory, who's way better and bigger and stronger than Adam Cole, could be good. But, again, who cares? After WrestleMania, Austin Theory is going to start the new season of wrestling, of Raw, when he gets traded to SmackDown eventually, I'm sure, right? He's going to start and he's going to, try to do something with his life, with his career. So this is not a good way for Austin Theory to end the year. He hasn't done anything to end the year with. And Pat McAfee, this is his second match as far as I know. So you have it. Then we have not rated. We have RK Bro, who for some reason are still together and are tag team champions, versus the Street Profits versus Alpha Academy. I mean, let's be real here. The fact that Randy Orton is in this match is embarrassing. Randy Orton historically has had a high-profile WrestleMania match until today. Then we have Riddle, who also is good. There's no reason why Riddle and Randy Orton should be in the same card as people like Street Profits and Alpha Academy, who are two tag teams that in 3 years, nobody's going to remember. Doesn't matter. Then we have Edge versus AJ Styles. AJ Styles is the new Randy Orton, you know what I mean? He's the guy now that has that spot on the card, you know what I mean? AJ Styles has the spot on the card where it's going to be him versus someone in a one-on-one match. This is, of course, relevant because it's Edge versus AJ Styles, motherfucks. That's obviously interesting. But because AJ Styles has done absolutely nothing since last WrestleMania, all he's done is be like a horrible tag team champion with Omos, who thankfully is not on the card. Right? No Andre the Giant Battle Royal up in this piece. Anyways, so there's that. And then beyond that, basically, it's WrestleMania time, so they're okay, time to convert AJ Styles into a singles guy again. Once again, though, it doesn't matter who wins. If Edge wins, it is a meaningless win in Edge's star-studded, Hall of Fame career. It is an incredible, match for AJ Styles if he wins it, because he has never beaten Edge. But he has beaten people like Cena. He's wrestled at WrestleMania against Undertaker. You know what I mean? So the facts are what the facts are. Even for AJ Styles, this is not a career highlight. This is a match that we wanted to see it. But there's so many more matches that have been AJ Styles' dream matches that we've seen already. For example, when Kurt Angle went to TNA, I was like, oh my god, we're going to get to see Kurt Angle versus AJ Styles. The matches did not disappoint. Oh my god, AJ Styles is in WWE? Finally! We can finally see AJ versus Cena, which is a dream match because it's the number one guy from one company versus the number one guy in the other company. Right? And AJ Styles won that match and became champion. Right? One of the best moments in wrestling, in my opinion, ever was when AJ Styles became champion. Because it really solidified him as the guy that he deserves to be. But Edge versus AJ Styles, completely meaningless. Who cares? If AJ Styles wins, fine. He can be I beat Edge at WrestleMania. That's kind of a big deal. But it's on the same level as AJ's match with Chris Jericho. It's like that. It's oh, he's wrestling a legend and he's probably going to lose. So who cares, right? Edge winning is completely meaningless. It adds nothing to his career. The match might be good, right? But I don't care about it. I don't care about the match, just like I didn't really care about Edge versus Seth Rollins last year, which turned out to be one of the best matches ever, right? But it doesn't matter. The match is going to be great. But who cares? It's not entertaining. It's not interesting. I can't expect any WrestleMania surprises from this. Then we finally have the only match with any kind of WrestleMania hype, any kind of WrestleMania level build. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, the feud that keeps on giving. All right, this match is going to be relevant. This match is the only reason to watch WrestleMania. Now, whether the match is going to be good or not is completely immaterial. Who cares about that? The reality is that the match is going to have gravitas for one reason and one reason only. It will be the quintessential Roman Reigns match. This is it, motherfucks. This is the match that people remember Roman Reigns for. This is Roman Reigns' WrestleMania moment. In my opinion, John Cena's WrestleMania moment was not when he beat JBL. Who cares about that? His WrestleMania moment was when he beat The Rock to win the title after winning the Royal Rumble. You see what I'm saying? The WrestleMania trajectory is as follows. Someone gets screwed somehow, right? John Cena gets screwed. In the storyline, it was his what's it called? His marriage is falling apart, right? So he has to win the Royal Rumble because he doesn't have a chance at going to WrestleMania. He wins the Rumble, and over there he beats The Rock, who beat him last year. They've been feuding for like 2 years at that point, right? He beats The Rock, and he has his moment. That's his number one moment, right? Same thing. Like, The Rock's moment is Rock versus Hulk Hogan, right? It's not The Rock beating Stone Cold. It's not The Rock, like, winning anything at WrestleMania. Who cares about that? It's not The Rock and Mankind. It's The Rock beating Hulk Hogan. I mean, as a matter of fact, I think The Rock pretty much lost at all relevant WrestleManias. You know, he won, like, some irrelevant matches that he beat Stone Cold. Who cares? But the facts are what the facts are. The Rock beating Hulk Hogan is his moment. This is Roman Reigns' moment. Even if he loses, this is the match people are going to remember. But in my opinion, Roman Reigns is going to win. He's going to beat Brock Lesnar clean. Like, maybe not super clean, because I would like to see Brock Lesnar do an F5 to, like, Heyman or to the Usos. But there is room here for suspense. There is room for a double turn. Not that I'm looking forward to one or anything, but there's room for things to happen here. For example, let's just imagine if Paul Heyman and the Usos betray Roman Reigns. Just imagine if that happens. They betray Roman Reigns and they go with Brock Lesnar and they become Brock Lesnar's bitches. Right? And Brock Lesnar and Heyman is like, I was always behind Brock Lesnar. He's the number one guy. Right? Double turn. Roman turns face. But now people are going to love him as a face. Because now he can actually go back to being a badass face who's trying to get revenge on his brotherhood, right? And, of course, Paul Heyman. He can just break free and just be like the badass Roman Reigns. I miss that guy. You know, I'm kind of sick and tired of this cowardly Roman Reigns who does, like, guillotine chokes. No, I want to see Superman punches and more spears. But anyways, the point is, even if that doesn't happen, even if Roman Reigns just wins clean and WrestleMania ends with a heel Roman Reigns beating a face Brock Lesnar, just like Roman Reigns beat Undertaker, the next day, the heat will be insane. And then, who is not going to watch SmackDown or maybe Raw? I don't know how they're going to do it. They might bring him out on Raw. Who's not going to watch that, right? Who doesn't want to know what's next for Roman Reigns after he beats Brock Lesnar, right? That's why Roman Reigns is going to win. Brock Lesnar winning does nothing for anybody. Roman Reigns winning solidifies him as one of the greats. And that's a moment that you get to witness at WrestleMania. So, as a result, this is obviously the match that I'm looking forward to the most. But the facts are what the facts are. As a card, WrestleMania looks like shit, motherfuckers.